we go on a Monday. Good to have you with us. Ed Schultz, news and commentary. What is party unity? I am so sick and tired of hearing all of these pundits, these network reporters, especially on CNN, who just can't do a hit without talking about party unity. Party unity is what it is. And until you have someone in a position of authority, an elected official or a superdelegate or someone who's a delegate to the Republican convention saying, I simply am not going to support Donald Trump, then you have to talk about party unity, because then they might go somewhere else. It's all going to take care of itself. I just don't see unity as this big problem. For the last 8 years, the Republicans have had an identity crisis. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they stand for. They don't know where they want to take the country. All they know is less government, and they don't want to pay any taxes. That's where the Republicans are. So here comes Donald Trump, and they're trying to figure out whether this is flexibility or foolishness on the conservative side. He wants spending increases because of all the things he wants to do with the military. He wants a reduction in taxes. And now he's wordsmithing with network anchors about, well, what he really meant in taxes was that from his plan, it might not be exactly what he first proposed, that rich people might have to pay a little bit more, but in totality, they're going to get a tax reduction. It's almost mindless is what it is. The Republicans do not know who Donald Trump is or what he really stands for. But now they're starting to find out that they've got issues with him on taxes on the wealthy, because in the Republican world is that they don't want to pay any taxes at all. The minimum wage, oh my God, he wants to raise that. He even said he might look at what Bernie Sanders has been talking about. That's heresy is what that is. And then dealing with the country's debt. Saying that, well, we're going to gyp these people. We're not going to pay them all back. We're going to get 50 cents on a dollar. That isn't going to happen. He says, oh, by the way, all we do is print money anyway. Look, all of these things are non-starters for Paul Ryan. And Paul Ryan, to his credit, isn't willing to jump in the sack with Donald Trump politically right now because he's not totally sure. Is it okay if Ryan does a vetting process? Because the primary season now is apparently over, and he wants to find out who their general election nominee is going to be. This is Ryan on Friday afternoon.
Donald Trump, will you support him?
Well, to be perfectly candid with you, Jake, I'm just not ready to do that at this point. I'm not there right now.
Perfectly understandable. He's not ready yet. And if you want to go to the core of the issue, folks, it's so simple. It's the Supreme Court. In an interview over the weekend, I'm here in Washington driving around, and I'm listening to Reince Priebus do an interview. I think it was on NPR. And Reince says, if Donald Trump would give us some names of some people that he wants to put on the Supreme Court, it would give us more of an idea of exactly where he wants to go. Now, if that isn't a watered-down statement, we really don't know who this guy is. He seems to be a pretty nice guy on the phone. We've had no problems dealing with him, really. And some of the things he said in the media we're not really sure about. But so far, he's been a pretty good guy in dealing with him. But if he could just give us some names. The conservative movement in this country knows one thing. They are going to have some serious problems if they don't win this election, because the next president is going to swing the court either to the right or to the left. There's no doubt about that. And that is going to set the tempo for women's rights, for equal rights, for social justice, for corporate power for the next 25 years. And so this is the motherlode decision for the Republicans. They've got to find out what Trump wants to do on the Supreme Court. Now, the only thing I can think of so far that the Republicans really love about Donald Trump is the fact that he knows how to attack Hillary Clinton, and he's not afraid to do it. Listen to this.
Clinton was the worst in history, and I have to listen to her talking about it. And just remember this. She was an unbelievably nasty, mean enabler. And what she did to a lot of those women is disgraceful. So put that in her bonnet and let's see what happens, okay?
So that means that Donald Trump thinks that Hillary Clinton should have never forgiven Bill Clinton and just dumped him and moved on with her life. How else do you interpret that? But you know what? Core conservatives, they're just saying, ooh, we're just getting started now. We're going to beat up Hillary Clinton big time. And also Bill Clinton. Listen to this.
She is playing the woman's card to the hilt. She is going, I watched over the weekend, and everything is about women, and Donald Trump raised his voice, and, it's all nonsense. And you know what? Women understand it better than anybody. And watch how well I do with women when it counts, when the election comes. Watch how well. Because women want to see strong security. They want to see strong military. They want to see borders where people just can't come walking across a border like it's Swiss cheese. And you see the damage that's been done to our country with the weak borders. You see what's happening. You see the crime. You see the drugs flowing in and poisoning our youth and everybody else.
We've heard all that before. All right, so who's this going to motivate? Women? No. It's going to motivate white working men who hate Hillary Clinton. And Trump knows that there's a lot more of them out there than there are African Americans and Latino voters. The largest voting bloc in this country is white people. And he is going to play to their worst emotions. He's going to play to their biggest fears. And he's going to serve up as much red meat as he possibly can. And the Republican Party is trying to figure out, how do we get an identity with all voting blocks and be the party of the country with this kind of garbage? Now, in a 5-minute commentary, folks, I think that's where the Republicans are right now. They're eventually going to get to Trump because they have to. Bill Kristol says there's a 50-50 chance there'll be another candidate. He's a schmuck. I don't believe that. He's just a conservative guy out there trying to get some attention. They're not going to get another candidate because it's going to walk the Democrats right in and go back to what I said, the Supreme Court. I mean, if they're not going to service somebody's ego and the party's ego when they know that this is the mothership when it comes to deciding where this country's going to go. In this election cycle, we're going to decide whether we are a center-left country or a center-right country. For more on this, let's go to Ruth Conniff. She's the editor of the Progressive Magazine. Ruth, good to have you with us.
Great to be with you, Ed.
I would like your take, and our listeners would as well, on the strategy early on of Donald Trump, and also, of course, in your state of Wisconsin with Paul Ryan, how he's trying to sort this whole thing out. Now, today, Ryan says that he'll even step aside as the chairman of the convention if that's what Donald Trump wants. He's really giving him an open to show the Republicans who he really is and how they're dealing with us. But in this entire weekend news cycle, put it all together for us. Unpack it. Where are you at on this, and what's your take?
Well, I think it's absolutely fascinating, Ed. I mean, this is really pretty unprecedented, actually, that Ryan, who is going to be the leader of the convention, who's the Speaker of the House, is, offering to get out of the way of Donald Trump altogether because he finds him so distasteful. They are having a standoff, and they're going to meet on Thursday, and we'll see what comes out of that meeting. But Ryan is really staking out, he's trying to show his power, and he's trying to stake out this turf as the Republican Party that's not about Donald Trump. And, he's looking at 2020. I think Trump is right about that. I think the Republicans don't think that Trump is going to win the general election, and I think some of them are trying to figure out what's their best way to position themselves if Trump, plows ahead and loses. And I think you're right that some of them will come back to endorsing Trump. But I think they're in a real state of disarray. And what's fascinating to me about it is this idea that it's all about principles. What are Paul Ryan's principles, right? I mean, Trump is obviously selling a lot of things, but Paul Ryan has been selling trickle-down economics from the very beginning of his career, and he's been selling it in Janesville, Wisconsin, which is the heart of the Rust Belt. So when he goes around with his PowerPoint presentation and he tells people, first of all, that the deficit, which has been going down the entire Obama administration, should be their number one concern. Secondly, that he wants to voucherize Medicare. And thirdly, that tax cuts for the very, very wealthy and corporations are the chief policy proposal that he's got at the expense of the working class. The crumbling that's going on in the Republican Party is not just that Donald Trump is a loudmouth and he embarrasses them. It's that the whole idea of Reaganomics as something that working class people ought to buy into has finally come undone. People know what has happened to them as a result of these trade deals. They know that more tax cuts for corporations do not benefit them. There's a reason why Donald Trump is willing to talk about raising the minimum wage, because people have really taken it on the chin. And there's been a lot of talk about sort of the dog whistle racism of Republican politics over time. And it's true, they sold a lot of cuts in public services and a lot of really brutal austerity measures to people who were feeling angry and neglected and felt like those things would fall more heavily on black and brown people. But it turns out that they didn't just fall on black and brown people. And people are, it takes a while, but people really get wise.
Yeah.
This stuff is not helping them. Not helping. And so that's an ideological problem that's much bigger than Donald Trump.
What do you think of this strategy going after the Clintons personally? Here it is.
I spoke very little about that compared to other things. You took a small amount of the speech and you build it up like it's the biggest thing in the world. But it is a big thing. Hey, look, he was the worst abuser of women.
You just said I'm making too much of it. Now you say it's a big thing.
Excuse me. As a politician in the history of our country, he was impeached. He was impeached. And then he lied about it. He said nothing happened with Monica Lewinsky, and then he said, sorry, folks, it actually did happen. And the guy was impeached for lying. She can't talk about me because nobody respects women more than Donald Trump. And I'm going to take I will be better for women by a big factor than Hillary Clinton, who frankly I don't even think will be good to women.
All right, Ruth, are conservative women stupid enough to buy that? I guess the question is.
Oh, this is vaudeville. This is reality television. Let's talk about sex scandals again. Remember how the rest of the country felt about that impeachment that people were so excited about in Washington? The Republicans were sure this was huge, that, Clinton's numbers were going to go through the floor. Guess what? The rest of the country cared about what was going on at home. They did not care about Bill Clinton and his philandering. And it's kind of gross, and it's something that now we can live through again, with the Clintons in the spotlight and with Donald Trump as the opponent. And it's going to depress turnout. It's going to be a lot of ugly advertising. But, at the end of the day, what is that about? It's about the style of campaign that Trump has run and the media has enabled, which is a reality television, big audience, big advertising, big money campaign that completely ignores the real needs of people. And people see that, too.
Ruth Conniff, always great to visit. I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Ed. Great to be with you.
Ruth Conniff, editor of the Progressive Magazine. When we come back, commentary on Canada. They need to get their head out of their rear end and realize that help from the United States and Russia fighting this fire would be the right thing to do for the environment. Stay with us. We're right back. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team bringing this production. We're right back. Hey, folks, you've heard me talk about BioGreen Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is. I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable. It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, wegothead.com, or go to biogreenclean.com. www.biogreenclean and order today. It's time to continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems. Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit.
We perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns. It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor. They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
I'm sure many of you out there have seen the videotape and the stories that have gone on now for days that there is a huge fire in Alberta, Canada. And there's this thing called northwest winds on the northern tier that when it blows out of the northwest, it moves the atmosphere quite a bit. The clouds, the storms, and yes, the smoke. Russia and the United States, it was first the United States, then Russia. They have offered help to the country of Canada, to the provinces that are, number one, fighting these forest fires, that's producing unbelievable smoke to the point where you can't see in front of your hand, not to mention the air quality that it is imposing, not on just Canada, but on the United States, and it will be eventually on the entire continent. It is beyond me where the Canadians stand on this. Take all the help you can get. And these fires have consumed hundreds and hundreds and thousands of acres. Over 100,000 people have been evacuated. And here's Canada saying, because they've got some issues with Russia, that they don't want the #1 firefighting planes in the world, and they don't want to take any help from the United States. Not yet. It's ludicrous. All along the northern tier, Montana, the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, by this weekend, you're going to have rotten visibility in your neighborhood if the wind blows the right way, and it isn't going to go away anytime soon because these fires aren't going to be put out anytime soon. This is almost a global issue at this point, and the Canadian government basically has their head up their ass unless they say, you know what, we're partners when it comes to the environment. What did people in the Dakotas and Minnesota and Wisconsin do, and Michigan for that matter, to have to put up with this kind of lousy air quality because of a forest fire that the country won't take help on to get rid of? Wow, go figure it out. This is Ed Schultz, News and Commentary. We'll see you tonight at 8 on the Tube, RT America.